Right. Can you see me? Can you guys see me? Am I live? Just a quick check-in. Please drop a note in the chat so I know that this is actually working, because it's not as easy as I would like it to be. And I see a few of you are already on a stream. Hey everyone, can you see me now? Is everything okay on your end? Can you see if everything is okay? Is it streaming? Let me know if you can see it. Put a big yay in the actual chat if you can see my, if you can at least hear me. I had some tech issues. Awesome. All right, let's crack on then. I hope everyone is doing well. I can see we have at least a few people, a handful of people, and some questions. Now, with the questions, if you can leave them, on a side, somewhere there is a sidebar. I'm also trying to stream all the bits so it remains for people who are watching it late. So that, let's say, if you might not want to stick around for, let's say, 40, 50 minutes, whatever it's going to take us, well, you can switch it off, come back, and then watch the stream where I'm reviewing your prototypes, basically. But I'm glad that it's going on, and, we're actually rolling, because I was just struggling. It's so complicated to live stream, really, really bad UX. That's what I'm telling you. But as you can see, let's start with the gamification. Now, in a previous few weeks, I posted this challenge for you to gamify the UI, right? I got 4 submissions, actually 3 Axure and 1 bonus one, which is not done in Axure, but that's totally fine, I'm just gonna need to figure out how do I stream it, because there is, again, technical issues to actually showcase something which is not in your browser. Again, bad UX. Now, let's gamify this thing a little bit as well. When I'm gonna present you a specific case, give a rating. Give a very kind of like a nice critical a few points. Maybe it's a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, 1 being the lowest, and it's totally fine because we are all designers who want to learn from each other. And so when I'm presenting something, let's say I'm going to present to you a gamification from sports perspective, from sign and sign up. There is a lot of different bits which are gamified. Just leave a mark and leave a few comments. Maybe that's going to benefit the designer. It's probably going to piss them off a little bit because, nobody likes to be beaten of their proud work. But I think it's part of a growth where you can actually take in something and then you can update your prototypes and then, become better designer, because this challenge is exactly about that. I asked you to learn just a little bit to maybe apply the Octalysis framework for gamification so it's meaningful, it delivers value to the user. Or perhaps just, make it UI, kind of like fledge out the UI so it's rich in UI experience because you haven't done so. And it's all about those challenges which basically take you a level up and forces you to step up. Also, meanwhile, leave a comment down below if you have anything general. It doesn't matter. Just don't ask me live questions, especially at COVID times. Not an expert. I'm trying to survive just like you in the limited, capacity in different means, of course. But if you have something UX related, something Axure related, gamification related, put it in. It's okay. I'll answer it. Cool. All right. So let's start with case number 1. And now I'm gonna time the fancy transition. I don't know if you've seen this cool fancy transition. And as you can see, I have a few different bits here, but I want you to focus on that right side of the screen, basically. And this submission is from Stanislav, who is he's actually a business analyst from Belarus, and he submitted it saying, hey, I'm new to UX. I'm trying to learn Axure as a prototyping software. He's obviously wireframing, applying it, and he's a massive Manchester United fan. He likes that footy. He likes to do, he's basically a fan. That's all there is. That's all kind of like a meaningful describe him as a user, I guess, as well as as a designer, as someone who wants to design different bits and make better experiences for fans like him. And he made this sign-in form. Now, the simple bit here is what he said, that you can enter, there is a validation, of course, but if I, let's say, start entering something like my email, and I'm not gonna enter good email because you guys like to spam, as you can see on a left-hand side, oops, I just misspelled it, there is a progress bar, and there is some sort of almost like an animation, I guess. It's kind of like a snapshot of different stages, right? And if I, let's say, type in a password and it's correct, then the button, he changed it into shoot, so he gamifies it that way, where you're actually progressing. It gives you a contextual information so that you can, so that it kind of like I guess supports that story of you getting into a bit more gamified interface. And then if you shoot, he added a loading bar, and boom. I don't know if that was too quick for you guys because there is a little bit of delay in live streams, but as you can see, you get Rooney flying in, and you can either replay, which I would probably say re-sign in, and maybe log out so you can log it back again, but it basically allows you to then go with your business in that fine side. So that's a simple example, but really good example where, it's thinking out of the box of how you can, let's say, next to your login form, put some information, which, in the end of the day, it might distract the user, so you need to be careful. Always user test these assumptions. Always have a hypothesis in mind that, hey, if I do this, then that's going to happen because of X, Y, Z. If it doesn't happen, adjust the course. There is no need to reinvent a wheel, especially if you have evidence that doesn't work, let's say. So, good submission from Stanislav, and I don't know if he's on a live stream. He was last time, and he was asking questions. See a lot of different questions popping in, but I'm gonna address your questions in the end, because some of them, are very easy to answer. I see already 3 questions. Some of them are like live questions, and I'm no expert, so don't ask me stuff which a UX designer shouldn't know about. Next, let me see if this is gonna work, because guys sent me the files as a local file, so we need to republish the prototypes and bring it back in. Let me know if you can see this. This is from Josh, and his case is called Giving Back the Water, and it's a bit, it's again conceptual case, but I like this one because it's a small snapshot in the user experience, in their journeys, in that touch point where you, let's say, maybe you want to create an account instead of logging in from a previous case. This is about creation and joining that community, and it's very bold, very simple, as you can see layout. I don't know if the stream actually showcases my cursor. I'm flying all over the place, but I'm gonna tell you exactly where to click. I see a preview and that there's nothing like that. And so don't forget to rate, by the way. Give Stanislav some feedback because he's definitely gonna see this stream. So in the comments, let Stanislav know that, hey, his prototype is great, why it's great, what he could improve, and then you can actually take it forward. And I see other questions like from Ved Mishra, please reply. Wait, dude, I'm gonna reply to you in the end of a stream. This is about gamification, and I see you have an issue, but I'll try to answer it, afterwards. Let's just cover the cases because people submitted. They want to see what you think. And everyone who's on a live stream, just add a few notes if you like the prototypes. Rate it a little bit, give them feedback basically, so they can improve as well. So I'm not just here to review and waffle around. Let me do a sip break. And if you have any issues with stream as well, leave a comment down below because I don't know if you can see me even. It's hard to tell if it's actually live. But in this case, Josh wants you as a user to join a community to, to avoid drafts, to save water, to basically create an account and I guess crowdfund different bits. He basically, as you can see, I'm mouse overing my create an account button. I click on it. And if you notice in the background, there is like a water wave, and that fills in as you create the account. So let's say if I would enter an email, something, something, something. I saw that there is no validation, by the way, which is another step Josh could improve on, and enter a password and retype a password, let's say, and imagine that it actually matches. So you can see my water level rises, and then I can join, and it tells me, hey, welcome. You can enter a username really quickly. Well, actually, let me just enter something meaningful. Maybe take a snap, continue, and then that goes up, and it basically then welcomes you into the actual community experience. Meaning, I can actually repeat this prototype. Maybe I went a bit too quick. But as you can see, as you go through each of these, he basically just attached an action. So that when the input field is on focus, then he basically raises that background. And it's very simple because all it is just a dynamic panel basically, which goes up bit by bit every time you click on something. If you join, it goes up. And as you can see, if you do those things, it goes up, and then it fills in like a water bottle, basically. That was his rationale behind it. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Cool. What do you guys think about it? Leave a comment down below. Let's see what we have next. And one more thing to highlight about this prototype is that both of Stanislav as well as Josh, you basically picked a different segment in the user journey. It wasn't like to do with everything, like, because when you gamify experiences, you kind of want to carry through those themes from touch point to touch point. So let's say if you gather some points or you gather some progress which is gamified, when your status increases, your maybe badge increases, maybe you level up, it's basically you are playing a game while doing what you want to do. So it's a fun way to do, but it becomes like an ecosystem, a holistic view which impacts different touch points. And gamification permeates. It's not just that you gamify one thing. After that, you should gamify other things, and you can then reward basically your users and make it much more engaging. And I can see already someone gave 3 for Stanislav. The gamification method was nice. It just takes my attention too much. In my opinion, if it was subtle, it would have been great. What do you think? I think it's spot on. I think it's really spot on. Because you always need to be careful that it's contextual and it's supportive of what users want to achieve and what they need to achieve. You as a user, as a fan, you might think that, oh, I just want a flying ball. And it's by the way, it's a very structured critique as well. It's not meant to offend Stanislav, but it's kind of like you need to think, is that gamification method going to distract the user too much? So instead of spending 5 seconds creating an account, we're going to spend 20 seconds because we're just so in awe and like, oh, this is amazing. Or is it going to be a 10-second experience, and then once we sign up, we're going to be blown away because it's so cool. Let me see what others say. I like how both the football and water case dynamic while typing. That's cool. So you're talking about Josh, Aquaflow. It will also be interesting to see how interactions change when there is an error. Exactly. So that's my point. So you see Aquaflow gave an additional note to Josh to improve is to actually depthen the experience, add a little bit more to it. So for example, if it's an error, maybe you get a penalty. Maybe the water flashes in red and then comes back to blue, so you know that you did something wrong. In that case, with subtle small things, you can gamify that experience. And if you have specific ideas how you could do that, drop them as well. And I see Darked Green says, hey, the user might forget why they were on your site. That's correct. That's really good point. Because again, you don't want to distract, you want to support them. And that's really good feedback for everyone, I think. 17 seconds attention span. That's interesting. Darken green is saying that we have only 17 seconds attention span. You need to give me a study on that. I would challenge that. It's probably maybe on general terms, I guess, if you focus on a certain point. But if you have a study or you've seen an article of that, just drop it in the chat. I think everybody else would benefit from it. Cool. Like your feedback so far, and I think it's helpful for everyone else. Now, the third submission is very, very different. And it's by, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. It's the person is not an English speaker themselves. It's a French, and it's AOZ or AOZ Design. And I'm gonna show you how it's written in a sec. Let me see if I can pull it up. If you can see it, let me just refresh, because Axure tends to be a sleeper where, you know, if you are inactive, it tends to just fresh the local host, and I think I just republished. So it's from AOZ Design, and I think it's a French speaking, maybe France based designer, and he made an actual game. Now it's a simple game, but it gives you an insight of what you could actually achieve if you learn Axure prototyping. You know, in just a few minutes, you can pull up something which validates things and tells you, hey, this is good, this is not good. And so even if you want to prototype games, you can do that too. And let me show you exactly what it is. As you can see, I have a few bits already captured for AOZ to update their prototype. And it's purely from copy perspective. They're not English speakers, so there is just my OCD just hammering in and saying, hey, you should work on those few bits, because they're not like, they're not, on English level. They could be improved, basically. And this game is basically a typing game. So for each of the challenges, you need to enter the text, which you see exactly how it's written, in under 10 seconds, and then you earn points and you progress. So it's a very different take. And let me just start the game. And as you can see, I have a challenge presented. He's basically saying my family is rather a small one, and that's exactly what I should be typing in this box. Let me see. Oh, okay, I cannot activate it yet. And as you can see, this is where the feedback immediately comes, even before I play with it. Speed. I guess maybe in French language, speed, I don't know what it is equivalent of that. Not a French speaker myself, but I guess it maybe makes sense. But in English language, you probably would want to have something like start, or something what happens next. If the buttons, the best practice, the foolproof practice is basically to add a copy which, it tells you what's going to happen next. Is it print? Is it start? Is it run? Is it share? Something along those lines. So the message has to be clear of what the users would expect, going forward, basically. Let me see if and I'm on a level 1, by the way. So this is going to be a bit tricky for me as well. I'm not really good with typing or lettering, but let me just, as you can see, boom, I'm in the game, and if I start typing, fuck. Okay, I'm too slow. That's an error. As you can see, now level 2 immediately. Boom. I was rushing it. Okay, level 3, let me see. Oh, I think my text got deleted. Okay, I'm gonna, god damn it, not gonna make this one. And as you can see, then, oh, god damn it, another message. Wash your hands. You're asking for too much, mate. I'm a designer. I'm not a writer. I wonder if it's endless. Okay, I guess it was 5 levels, and my result is 30 points. Now, actually, let me share this link because it's public. I don't think he would mind if you want to try it out on a side. That's a prototype. If it works for you, ladies and gents, try it out. But try it out later on. Actually, I don't want you to go away yet. Let me just remove that comment. Boom. So you don't disappear because it got me, freaking sweating here. And if I restart, I guess it should restart the prototype. Yeah, and then you get the same game. So it has 5 levels. And all it really is, I have no doubt that this is a dynamic panel. And I don't know if they're on a live stream, if AOZ is on a live stream. But what we do is basically for each level, we're replacing a dynamic panel with, with the input field, with a submit button, which is unique, and then just a message. And then you have a counter, which basically every 10 seconds refreshes it and pushes new dynamic panel in for both, for input and read-only field. And so you have the 5 levels, which is quite linear if you think about it, but what's not linear is your performance. Like, I was total shit at it, so my performance obviously was crap. I got like 30 points. In reality, you could probably end up earning over 100 points, but this is a gamified experience end-to-end. You can see that. So what do you guys and girls think about it? Because I think, disregard my experience, no need to comment how crap I was to actually engage with it and interact with it. But other than that, what are your thoughts on, doing this thing? Because it's all about speed typing, and it's all about to actually try out if you can type in really quickly, and you get all those feedback points. My feedback, points for personally for this is that, again, a copy change, maybe a better onboarding beforehand, so you know exactly where you need to go, what you need to do, maybe a bigger level button, and I would probably disable the level as a button because it appears like a button, but you can't really select anything unless I missed something. But you would want this one to be big, restart to be big, have a bigger pattern, so you can basically even more enhance this experience. This is like an end-to-end game, right? And then you can do better, basically, even better. I see AOZ Design joined us. Hey, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but basically we went through your prototype. It's pretty damn cool. You're gonna need to watch the replay because there is some feedback points which you then can improve on your prototype. And they're structured. It's a structured criticism, so there's not gonna be anything which hopefully not gonna offend you. Aquaflow is saying, hey, maybe it can show some stats for the results at the end of the game, like type of speed, number of typos, etc. Exactly. This is good point. Because as you go, you could collect those different bits and global variables. Let's say you could collect how many typos there were. You could even calculate the accuracy based off of percentages. Anything you could do in JavaScript and anything you could code, you can do in Axure. And as you can see, another point Aquaflow is saying, 10 seconds is so fast. Why 10 seconds though? Yeah, maybe you could actually, instead of 10 seconds, you could allow people to change the mode. So maybe easy mode is 20 seconds, double that. Medium mode is like 15. Hard mode is 10 seconds. I would go for easy. As you can see, my performance was total shite. But for other people, they could just swap and, do better basically and be maybe more engaged. And that would also add up to them improving their skills. You gamify it that way. Maybe you have like a level up, because the harder things they do, or the more they do it, obviously they are going to become better typers, writers, writers, I guess. And in that case, they're going to improve, but you can always detect and capture those points and present it back to the user, so it's more gamified. Interesting comments so far, guys. Put a photo on a keyboard, under keyboard, with a screen giving you feedback which key you're pressing. Interesting. If right, then the keyboard photo shows green on the right green. Oh, I see what you mean. Interesting. So dark green is saying, hey, you could just make an image of a keyboard inside of a prototype, and then depending which key you press, you just highlight it green or red, which is neat, and you can definitely do that in Axure. It's gonna take you forever, but if you want to make this a proper web game, absolutely possible, and of course gamified, supporting it. One moment, sip break. And Brian saying, fun idea, I like the implementation. Possible A/B test would be a changed location of a timer. As I was looking at the prototype, I have it keep track of 3 pieces of information. Found a timer competing with a piece of text I would be recreating, perhaps give a color indication when the timer is close to finish. That's true. All really good points. As you can see, if you could come, and this is good feedback for AOZ, you could combine those different bits, push them into your next version of the game, and you have a functional game basically. Maybe you could even ask people to enter their names, so you have a scoreboard for each of the games. You keep the score basically. You know, like old school vintage arcade games, where every time you played it, even if it was quite linear and you know where you're gonna get, the points were one thing which always varied, and then you can compete with other people. Interesting. He used state to change the question, like a dynamic state. That's pretty cool. Free for typing game. It actually had some drives from Octalysis framework, the avoidance, so we type fast, and accomplishment. We can definitely take it level up by involving other drives too. That's a good point, and I'm glad that one of you brought up the Octalysis framework. If you don't know what it is, and you want to make your gamification meaningful, again, go to Design Tool Tuesday for this week. So meaning it's last week of May, depends when you watch this or re-watch this. I have a video of how to use it and how it's used, let's say, in Facebook, Diablo free game, Twitter. It's really, I think it's not as in-depth as you know, it's going to bore you, but then you're going to understand exactly what Anandra here is talking about, because she's saying, hey, you have all these drivers. Octalysis is basically 8 different drivers which make you make it meaningful. You know, you always have those decent drivers for every user. We are humans, we like to play. It doesn't matter how old you are, you just get older, but you're still the same. You know, the brain evolves a little bit, but the triggers, what you respond to and how you respond to, is exactly the same way as a child would in, let's say, their, you know, games and video games and stuff like that. That's why it's so popular. And let's say you have all those different games coming out and the industry is booming. It's just a matter of how you use it. So why not to use it in UX, in your web apps, mobile apps, and, you know, other different channels. So that's really good points. Now, the last case and a bonus case, and I saw already that Aquaflow was on a stream, and they, I don't know if it's a she, if it's a he, I don't want to offend, but basically they submitted this prototype for a learning platform. And I'm gonna attempt to pull it up because I don't know if it's gonna work. It's easy with Axure, and that's why I like Axure, because I can just share it in the browser and give a link, and then it streams well. I'm not sure if that's, you know, working with, let's say, other sources, and that's what I'm gonna attempt. So bear with me. Let me see if that's actually gonna work. And that is, you know, you might be wondering what's up. It's because they made an Adobe XD prototype, which is, you know, it's not Axure, but it's still something, and we still should showcase and review it. Let me see if I can actually select the Adobe XD as my streaming bit. And meanwhile, think about the questions. Maybe you have any questions for actual authors, because they're on the chat, at least some of them, or for myself. maybe you want to know how to do certain bits. I don't know if that's gonna work. I doubt. The streaming software doesn't allow... Oh, wait. Let me see. Yes! I think it's gonna work. Let me drag that in. I think it's gonna work. I don't know if I can restart the prototype. Oof, that doesn't do justice for a prototype. Wait, let me remake it maybe through Adobe XD. And again, you know how much I hate Adobe products. So it's all right. And you probably can see it. I can see in my stream preview that it came out. Let me just drag it out so it doesn't overlap too much. So yeah, this is their prototype, and Aqua Flow is basically saying that, hey, this is a made-up concept, and it's about learning languages, I guess. It's about onboarding different people so that, I guess, correct courses, correct providers for the specific learning are selected. And I might be butchering it because, again, it's... Wait, let me see if I can adjust. I might be butchering it a little bit. So Aquaflow, if you want to leave, I saw you on a chat. If you want to leave a few comments of what I'm getting right or wrong, feel free to add some narrative as well. That's okay. But basically, it's saying they're saying that a person, a user, can specify and personalize what their learning needs are, and they're gamifying it pretty neatly. As you know, Adobe XD is, I'm not really a big fan because it makes a slideshow prototype. You know, you don't have that sort of depth you would have in Axure. But if I initiate, it basically animates a few bits. I hope it's clear in the stream, because basically they're taking different shapes, and Adobe XD has shape-to-shape animation where you can actually move different bits, expand them, collapse them, shrink them a little bit. And as you can see, the user here is able to specify the language and the needs they want. So for example, I could select one, and I could select, let's say, a language. Maybe it's French. So immediately, let me see if I probably need to resize it a little bit so you can see exactly what I'm mouthing about here. Like this, I guess. That's gonna be a better justice for your prototype. But basically, you get a quote on a side. You get exactly the language. And you get some sort of, you know, why is it called French toast? So I guess there is like a fun fact behind it. But that is not implemented in this prototype, which is totally fine. Then you select the purpose as a user. So the purpose, immediately, as you can see, headline change. So it animated in and out. And I like this form because it's kind of like a storytelling way, I guess, to do that. Because, you know, you select exactly what your needs are, what's the purpose of it, which, you know, it's limited prototype. So you basically selected that. And then you can select what level you are in, which, let's say, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm a beginner, something like that. I can't really click anything here, but that's totally fine. Let me see if I'm missing something. I think my prototype got jammed. Let me restart again. Because I tried it before, it worked pretty well. Alright, let's restart. And I'm gonna skip through. I hope it's gonna work this time. So I select, let's see, French, a purpose. What am I missing? Aquaflow, you are in the chat. Where is that next button? I had it before. Maybe try English flow. Alright, let me see. That's why it's good to do it live. You know, otherwise you wouldn't do justice to your prototypes. Okay, so if I select English, and let's say I select something, I select the level, boom, I land on a scheduling place. So basically you go through the steps as a user, and you are basically then able to select some sort of date, some sort of time zone, and send a request to, I don't know, a potential teacher, a potential classroom, or course organizers. Click next, and then you can send the details. And that's where I think the prototype ends, which is pretty damn cool. I would like you to make it in Axure, because that would be super cool if you can actually do it. Because then you're gonna have a control of each and every, you know, checkbox. You can make these different bits. It's a big challenge, but it's definitely worth undertaking, because the actual patterns you used are really cool. The transitions are really cool. You know, you could even gamify it further, where maybe you're creating a profile for people. For example, here you had a quote, here you had a selection of a language, but maybe you could create like an English person. I don't know. The more you go through, you know, the actual profile changes of a person or something like that. It's not too distracting, basically. But that's a few different feedback notes. If anyone else on the stream in the chat have any feedback notes for Aquaflow, leave them down below as well. So, you know, we are all sharing. It's all about the community. It's not just me talking back at you. Because again, the challenge is yours. You're here to improve. You're here to see how better you could do different design solutions. And let me just check. A few comments came in while I was waffling around. I used auto animate. Adobe has limited interaction types. Exactly. That's why I dropped Adobe. I mean, to be entirely honest, I only picked up Adobe XD back in the day, and to me it was way too limited. I guess it's way more advanced right now, but even then, it was too bare. It's kind of like InVision Studio, which never picked up the speed. Now imagine if InVision Studio would have the same resourcing and would be the same flush corporate unit. They could have just, you know, made that product themselves and build it as a service. That wouldn't be an issue, and I think it would end up in the same state. But there is something missing, and especially when we want to do everything, we end up doing nothing. And that's why I like Axure, because we took it slow. You know, the actual product is like, what, decades old. It has at least like 12 years under its bucket, so it took that long for them to make it that functional. And that's what it takes. You cannot expect a product which was there for 5 years or a few years to do all that stuff, which, you know, usually takes decades to develop. Listening to the users like yourself, like designers, engineers, so forth. Innovation 110. We have to keep in mind prototyping is made to collect learnings and not validate our ideas. That's a really good point. It's, well, I guess it's a little bit of both. It also depends what you mean by collect learnings, but you always prototype, you know, you use hypotheses. You do some sort of user research. You use hypothesis of what could be an improvement for a specific user experience, for a specific journey the user has. You prototype around the touch point. Then, of course, you learn from it from actual user testing. But there is a lot of ideas involved in the ideation so that you arrive at those hypotheses. So there is a bit of a mixture, I would argue, where truth is always somewhere in the middle. Okay, I see Aquaflow is English flow. I might have not linked prototypes. It's totally fine. Now at least you know, and now you have a challenge to take it further and do that in Axure as well. Brian Horton is saying, hey, one gamification idea might be to offer a challenge question in the second step, the level. Perhaps we could answer a question for a proposal level if we get it wrong. That's a pretty good idea, I think. And I think Aquaflow could take that. So you're basically saying, wait, let me restart the prototype again. Damn Adobe. So he's basically saying, once you select the language and then is it second step or is it, well, it's I guess third step here. You could actually ask them, give them a challenge. Maybe they can select a beginner, intermediate, advanced, not sure, but also give them an ability to just answer a few questions or do like a Duolingo simple, like gamified, you know, a few bits, and then assess their level and say, hey, is this correct, accept or redo, or still rate it manually as a user and then proceed forward. So that's some, you know, wild ideas, but great ideas. You could get another chance or suggest exactly, yeah, that's not to echo your idea. That's exactly that same point. Kyle to Aqua. I paid more attention to the 3 steps than to what the right hand side was. What's in the English breakfast dish? Point 2. And then think, how would that look like on mobile? Will that info be below the steps? If user selects last step, then they won't see that bit. That's true. Maybe on a mobile you disable it altogether or minify it somehow. But I also think that this interface wouldn't be too hard to translate into mobile terms, because you know, it's very wide space driven, and the grid is already almost there. It's just the vertical space might be a challenge, as you say, Kyle. And this thing, it would be good to see it working, you know, that English, what's in an English breakfast dish, which is, I guess, you see the answer and then you kind of assess the things. But would be interesting to see what you had in mind, Aquaflow, behind that functionality. Cool. These are 4 submissions. For those who dropped in late, because I saw our counter of the viewers, you know, rose as we went. I'm just gonna check a few questions before we wrap up. I don't want to take too much of your time, but for those who joined late, this live stream is gonna become a regular video in a few minutes. Well, I guess a few minutes is a bit too optimistic for YouTube, but in like an hour or so, it's gonna become a regular video. We're just gonna crunch it and republish. But let me see what questions you had in the start, because I went through. And first one from DD4 was, is Axure worth learning in 2020? Hell yeah. I mean, we just had a case where, let's say, you had all those different input field values and variables and even a game created. You know, let me see if I can pull it up. All right. Okay. Aquaflow's prototype would have to go away. Like that game, we basically have this game created in Axure where you can basically assess how good of a typing power the user has. Well, typing power, I guess, how good their writing skills are, typing skills are. This is all done with 5 levels, checkups, errors, you know, all that validation is done in Axure. This is your answer, I think. It's definitely worth learning because it's a power tool, and it doesn't matter where you work. It's so easy to pick up any other prototyping tool as long as your UI skills are subpar, or like up to par, and then you can basically just learn anything. You know, Axure is really hard to learn, but really worth the investment of your time and effort. I see that there was Ved Mishra who said, hey, I am from India, I need your help urgently because this is relating to my job. Email me. I'm not sure how well I can respond to that because of the time limits. You know, nobody's time is infinite, but I take a look at every email. I usually bulk them and I respond in bulk. If you have very specific issue, you can leave a comment under one of the videos, which, you know, half answers that, and I'll always come back to it and usually answer it if it's specific. Now, if it's, you know, a live question, it's almost impossible to answer it, and, you know, I might not be a best person to do that. Anyone else having issues with video? Hope no more. But these are the questions I think I missed. Is there anything else you guys want me to cover? Or do you want to go and enjoy your weekends, your Saturdays? Hopefully, you know, in different locations, you had a good day and keep on rolling. Any questions? I'm gonna count to 10 and then I'm switching off, and you can go ahead and... Oh! Before you... Forget what I said. We need ideas for our next challenge. So if you want to prototype something specific, now is the time to leave the comment. So for example, it could be anything to do with, I don't know, like we had gamification, we had mobile video capture, like a social network, we had a theme of, now I'm even blanking it, but we have, I think, registration, logins, something to do with global variables. If your time is very appreciated, let's build a supplement brand. What do you mean by supplement brand? Do you mean the challenge would be to build an interface to combine different bits? I think we had the challenge where you had to make a burger maker so that you have like a slide of ingredients and you assemble your burger into a visual way. Real stock trading and wondering how it could be done in Axure 9, the stock graph for a prototype, able to toot on that. So I did have some stuff for data visualization, and one of our challenges was definitely data visualization. But you would need to define exactly what you want to prototype. Like with trading, let's say, I'd done a lot of work with trading, and you basically would need to unpack specific bits, because if you go too deep and your data visualization just overlaps and you have too much decision support interfacing, it's just everything falls apart, because Axure is also a limited tool. Even if it's power tool, you need to be picky of what you want to prototype. So I would recommend you to, start high level, see exactly what you need to validate with the users, to user test, and prototype just those bits. And everything else just keep in UI. It always comes down to what you need to hand over to your developers, to your engineering, instead of remaking the app basically. You don't need to do that. You're a designer, I guess. You need to care about interactions and that it's implemented the right way. So you need to convey your messages, but also user tests. So just that. For top 3 challenges you think is relevant, important to improve in the current UX landscape. How do you mean? Do you mean from process perspective? And that's I guess a response to Aquaflow and that question. Can you elaborate on that? And then Dark Green is saying interface for fitness industry. But what exactly in it? What's the challenge for actual UX designers, let's say? What do they learn from it? All of these ideas are great. Give me a bit more context of what you want it to be, because I already, I could like pinpoint, let's say, that trading bit, which on a point of what Kyle raised, that question, stock graph could be one of the prototypes we could assess, but I'm not sure if that's, if it challenges many other people. For example, something relevant to UX trends in 2020 or 2021. But you see, if I make a poll and you can vote, you're putting pressure to me to come up with ideas to challenge you, which is totally fine. You're just giving me extra work with the time I don't have. God damn it. But that's fine. If that's the case, I'm gonna keep all that feedback in mind. If you have any other feedback to make these streams better, do let me know. Just leave a comment on this video or email me again if you have burning questions, issues. Just be patient. I can't, the time is limited. That's the only issue. But other than that, I'm gonna get back to it and try to improve and help you out as well in one way or another. But that Aquaflow issue is a big one, like UX trends for 2020. I think if you go on my Twitter, and that's specifically to Aquaflow, but also relevant to everyone else. If you go on my Twitter and you see one of the latest tweets where I retweeted John Maeda's, or John Maeda, or John Maeda, I don't know how you pronounce it, but he's like a real MVP, a total OG of design industry. He's a strategist, he's an author, he's a thought leader in design and UX, and he produces yearly report of customer experience, you know, snippets, themes, what's relevant, what's up to come. Those are the real themes. Like, I would ignore all that UI jazz where, you know, oh, trends for 2020, 2021. It's almost irrelevant, especially if you're in UX, because the trends permeate and they don't change that quickly. They don't change every year. They change over like a long period of time. And so I would recommend you to read that report, because it's underlying strategies, underlying tactics, which then can impact how you're going to progress from year to year. And you're definitely going to benefit, all of you, out of that. Could you please spell this name? It's John CX report. Boom. That's him. If you just Google it, there is a short video, 13 minutes, but it's not gonna be anything to do with UI. It's gonna be very, I would just call it strategic. It's, you know, it's visionary way of what really is gonna matter for customer experience, but as a result, user experience. And I see that there is a Raymat from Japan. I guess that's hello, hey mate. But as you can like, just seen your Twitter, are you based in London? We should meet up for a drink when life is back to normal. Sure. If time permits, then yes. But yes, I'm based in London, and yeah. Let's see what else is there. Could you please? Okay. I think it's all answered. If you guys have any questions, drop now, or, you know, in the next 10 seconds. I think I'm gonna drop off and I'm gonna run, do some other bits. But thanks so much for joining me, and I can see that there are still a few of you on a live stream. If you missed anything, or if you joined late, again, in a few hours, I think in an hour or two, this is gonna become like a regular video, not a live stream. So you can rewatch it, especially in the beginning. I think there was like a few people only, and I think as time went by, more people joined over it. But yeah. If you have any questions, if you have a suggestion for challenge, leave them down below in the comments, and that has to do with live stream participants as well as those who are going to view it in the future, because Axure UX challenges are going to keep coming in as long as you want to be challenged. And I'm going to think as well of what topics I could do. I have a few ideas already from what you described there, you know, all those like fitness bits and whatnot. I think it's going to be challenging, and it's very niche, very specific. But perhaps that's exactly what we need. Maybe that it's that stock trading thing, and so forth. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Design Squad. Thank you for joining me in this live stream. There were some hiccups in technical bits, but other than that, thanks so much for company, and see you next time. Cheers. How do I turn this off?